Okay, so have you ever been at like a kid's sporting event and you just feel the energy on the sidelines and it's a little too much?
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. You know, those parents, right? Like, they mean well, but sometimes it just goes a little too far.
For sure. It makes you think, like, how do we keep things positive,
Hmm.
focused on the kids who are actually playing?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Passion and support are great, but it's got to be the right kind, right? For everyone involved.
Well, this is what's interesting about what we're looking into today. It's called the purple card
What's
policy.
purple card, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, so this is something the Eastern Regional Volleyball Association, that's ERVA,
Yeah.
uses.
Okay, volleyball. Got it.
Right. And, even if you're not into volleyball specifically, the idea itself is pretty interesting.
I'm curious. What's the idea?
So we're doing a deep dive today looking at this purple card system, how it works, and how it's trying to, change how spectators behave at these tournaments.
Makes sense, yeah.
We've got some great sources here that lay it all out, all the details of the policy.
Yeah, that's perfect. We can really get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we'll look at what kind of stuff can get you a purple card. Then we'll talk about who the policy applies to. It's not always who you think, and break down the different levels of warnings and penalties. Oh, and we'll even look at what happens to the volleyball clubs themselves if their fans, get a little out of control.
Sounds like a comprehensive plan.
Right. Okay,
Hmm.
so first things first, what exactly is this purple card policy?
So it's basically a tool for the officials. Like, think about yellow and red cards, right?
Sure, in soccer, right.
Or hockey. Exactly. Those are for players or coaches when they
Hmm.
break the rules or, aren't being good sports.
Yeah.
But the purple card, it's specifically for spectators, the people in the stands.
Oh, interesting. So it's all about what's going on off the court.
Exactly. The ERVA, in their documents, they say the whole point is to help preserve a respectful, positive, and fun playing environment. They want to keep the focus on the student athletes.
So the adults need to be setting a good example, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They have to contribute to a healthy atmosphere, not make things worse.
Right, right. And just to be clear, this purple card policy isn't the only thing they have, right?
Oh, no, it's not. ERVA makes it clear that this works with all their other rules.
Good.
Like, they have codes of conduct for tournaments and facilities, and there's the parent-spectator code of conduct, too.
So this is like an extra layer specifically for how spectators are acting.
Exactly.
Okay, so what kind of behavior are we talking about? What can actually get you a purple card?
Well, there are a few things they list out. The first one is pretty broad, but important. It's any comments made or actions displayed that are deemed by others as rude, profane, disrespectful, disruptive, or aggressive, which interferes with the normal progress of a tournament match.
So like a parent yelling at the ref or being really nasty to the other team's players.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing they want to stop.
It's easy to see how that could ruin the whole experience,
Yeah.
especially for the kids on the court, trying their best.
Absolutely. And it specifically mentions inappropriate actions or comments directed at members of an officiating crew.
Right. The refs are there to make sure everything's fair.
Exactly. And when they're being harassed, it just creates a terrible environment. And honestly, who would want to be a ref if they're going to get yelled at all the time?
Yeah, no kidding.
Then they have behaviors or comments attempting to influence the calls made by officials.
Ah, so trying to pressure the refs into making calls that benefit their team.
Yeah, it could be constant complaining or even trying to bribe them or something. ERVA is really serious about protecting the fairness of the game.
Makes sense. It really undermines things if spectators start trying to control the game.
Totally. And there's a catch-all in there, too. Behavior prohibited by USAV and/or ERVA codes of conduct.
So any other rules about sportsmanship and appropriate behavior? Those are all covered too.
That's right. And lastly, misconduct deemed contrary to normally accepted behavior, resulting in the unnecessary interruption of a match.
So something's so bad that they have to stop the game because of it.
Yeah, like something really out of line.
Okay, so lots of different things that can get you in trouble. But who exactly does this policy apply to? I mean, is it just parents in the stands?
Well, that's the thing. It's actually broader than that. ERVA specifically says it applies to any member of the ERVA region not currently participating in a match who has assumed the role of a spectator.
So it's not just parents.
Nope. We're talking club directors, coaches who aren't coaching at that moment, any adults on a team's roster, even players who are there watching other matches.
So even if you're really involved in the volleyball community, if you're a spectator, you have to follow the rules.
Yeah. And it's not just ERVA members either. The policy applies to any non-region member, such as parents or relatives of a region member,
Okay.
and even more broadly, any attendee or spectator at any ERVA-sanctioned event.
So basically, if you're in the stands, these rules apply to you. Doesn't matter if you're directly connected to a team or ERVA.
That's right. And just to be clear, yellow and red cards, those still apply to the players and coaches who are in the game, like normal.
Right. The purple card is only for spectators. Got it. Okay, so we know what it is and who it applies to. But what happens when someone actually breaks the rules? Like, what are the consequences?
So there's a three-stage process. Stage 1 is a verbal warning.
Okay.
And ERVA really stresses that a lot of people are responsible for giving these warnings.
Oh, really? Who all?
So you have the officials on the court, whether that's a coach acting as the ref or a certified official. Then other certified ERVA officials, coaches, and even tournament staff.
So they're all trying to address things early on.
Yeah.
Just with a verbal warning, no cards or anything.
Yeah, exactly. They want to de-escalate the situation before it gets worse.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if the warning doesn't work?
Well, that brings us to stage 2. Purple card and yellow card warning. This is when the actual purple card comes out. How it works depends a bit on who the main referee is. The R1.
Right, the main referee.
If the R1 is a coach, they have to call the day official over to their court. But if the R1 is a certified official, they can handle it themselves. They might still ask the day official to come over for the report, though.
So the day official is there to, like, oversee things or concern what happened.
Exactly. So once they decide to give the warning, the official holds up both a purple card and a yellow card at the same time in one hand.
Both at the same time. Interesting.
Yeah. And this is a warning to the whole team that the spectator is supposedly cheering for. Both team captains are called over to the ref stand, and they have to tell their head coach.
Okay.
Then it's the coach's job to tell the spectator who's causing the problem.
What if the person won't say which team they're with?
Oh, they're pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
If they refuse to say, they can be kicked out of the whole facility right then and there. And the club they're associated with could get fined too. Yeah, so clubs have a big incentive to make sure their fans behave and that they cooperate if something happens. It's also important to know that this purple card, yellow card warning is for the whole team, and it lasts the entire match.
Right.
And a team can only get one of these warnings in a single match. Now, they do write it down on the score sheet. They put PC in the warning column with the team, the set number, and the score. But no points are given to the other team. It's just a warning.
Right. A formal warning. So what happens if the same team has more problems after that warning?
Then we move to stage 3, purple card and red card penalty. So if there's more bad behavior from spectators connected to that same team, things get more serious.
I bet.
And again, it doesn't have to be the same spectator. Anyone connected to that team can trigger this. Same deal with the referee. If they're a coach, they got to get the day official. If they're certified, they can handle it, but they might still want the day official there.
Got it. And now we have the red card.
Yeah, so the official shows both the purple card and the red card at the same time. And this time, the other team automatically gets a point, and they get to serve. Just like if a player got a red card.
So now there's an actual penalty in the game because of the spectators.
Yep, exactly. Same as before, the captains are told, they tell the coach talks to the spectator. And if the spectator refuses to say which team they're with, they can get kicked out and the club can get fined. And this all gets written down on the score sheet too, this time in the penalty column. They write down the team, the set, the score when the penalty happened, and if the other team got a point because of it.
Wow. That really raises the stakes. So the spectators' actions can actually affect the outcome of the game.
That's the point. They want to make sure people understand that their behavior matters.
Right. And there's something called official discretion in the policy, right?
Yeah, that's a really key part. It means that if a spectator is being really bad, the official can just kick them out, even without a warning.
So if it's super serious or dangerous, they don't have to go through all the warnings.
Exactly. The ref will stop the game immediately to make sure everyone is safe. If it's a coach, they'll call the day official over right away. Then the ref talks to the tournament director, the facility staff, and the head coach of the team the spectator is with.
And then the spectator has to leave right then and there.
Yep. And if they refuse to go, the policy says they have to call the police.
So they're taking this really seriously. They're ready to involve law enforcement if they have to.
Absolutely. And the last part of the policy is about reporting and threshold penalties. So every time a purple card is given, The day officials have to fill out a behavior reporting section in their official report.
Oh, so there's a paper trail, so to speak.
Right. Then, the club that the spectator was with gets a formal notice in writing. That way, they know exactly what happened and they have a chance to respond.
Makes sense. So what are the threshold penalties?
Well, that's where clubs can get fined if they have too many purple cards in a season.
Oh,
So if a club gets a second purple card, they have to pay $250. A third purple card is a $500 fine. And after that, every purple card costs them another $500.
those fines add up fast.
Yeah, yeah, they do. And the clubs have to pay these fines if they want to stay in good standing with ERVA and keep competing in tournaments.
So it really puts the pressure on the clubs to make sure their fans behave.
Definitely. And the policy also says that individual spectators who get multiple purple cards can also get in trouble with ERVA. They could even be banned from ERVA events.
So it's not just the club, it's the individual spectators who are held accountable too. It's a pretty comprehensive system, really.
Yeah, it is. It's about making sure that everyone understands the importance of good sportsmanship and respectful behavior. Not just the players, but the coaches, the club officials, and the fans in the stands.
So to recap, the ERVA Purple Card system is all about keeping things positive and focused on the young athletes. They have a list of behaviors that aren't allowed, and they've clearly outlined who the policy applies to. There's a step-by-step system of warnings and penalties, and they give officials the power to remove people right away if they need to. And they have those fines for clubs, which can really add up if their fans keep misbehaving.
You got it. It's a clear and structured system with real consequences. And in the end, it's all about creating a more respectful and positive atmosphere for everyone, especially the kids.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Like, could this kind of system work in other youth sports? Where sideline behavior can be a problem, or even beyond sports, really. Could something like this help in other public situations where it's important for people to be respectful? It's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, you're right. How do we create these positive environments? It's a good question.
It is, and I think this ERVA policy is a really interesting place to start the conversation.
Absolutely. It's worth considering, for sure.
So thanks for joining me for this deep dive. Always interesting to see how different organizations are trying to tackle these issues.
I agree. It was a great discussion. Thanks for having me.